as Steve had said. Merry Christmas Eve. I'm Meredith Dancos. I'm the lead pastor here at the Well Church. If this is your first time joining us, welcome. We're so glad that you've decided to join us for Christmas. We're going to have a pretty fun time here. And as you may have picked up, we've been doing a series called Happy Christmas, where we've been looking at different modern Christmas songs and what they might teach us about the gospel, or how we might understand the gospel differently through them. And whether you like it or not, All I Want for Christmas Is You is an icon of holiday music. In fact, many people don't think that Christmas starts until they've heard this song, but there was a survey done recently. It wasn't with a lot of people, but it was also voted the most annoying Christmas song out of all of them, ahead of the Chipmunk song. So, but love it or hate it, it's a song like no other. It was released in 1994. It was almost not a thing. Mariah Carey was young then, and they wanted to do a Christmas album, and for her, she almost didn't do it because she's like, that's for old people. Only old people do Christmas albums. But they convinced her, and the song was written in about 15 minutes, so it didn't take them very long. And that year that it was released, it only hit about 12 on the holiday charts. But since then, it's made history. So here's a few things. It's the only holiday song ever to be certified diamond, meaning that it's sold over 10 million copies. So that's a lot. It's the only Christmas song to top the charts of the top 100 songs, not top 100 holiday songs, but of all songs. It's the only one. It happened in 2019, and so it was 25 years after it was released. It finally hit number one. It's the 11th best-selling single of all time. It's earned over $60 million in royalties. There's a documentary made about this song. I guess you can watch it on Amazon. I did not watch that in preparation for tonight, but you might want to if you're looking for something to do tomorrow. And I kid you not, one English farmer found that his goats produce a half a pint more milk when they listen to this song in particular. So even then, if you milk goats, you might want to try that. I don't know. But even more than the catchy tune of the song, there's something about the message behind the song that can be very touching. This idea that all I want for Christmas is the person that I love, is the person that I long for. That Mariah Carey, as she was writing it, was thinking through all the things that she'd be willing to give up, the things that make Christmas special. And the favorite line for most people, I won't even wish for snow, right, was her favorite line too, because she loves snow, and she's like, I would even be willing to give that up. And it reminds us of this deeper truth for each of us, that our deepest longing in life is relationship. Our deepest longing in life is connection. And in many ways, then that echoes the gospel truth that Jesus came to bring to us, to show us what it is that we really need. And so in the Gospel of John, we see that Jesus has started to form quite a following. This crowd has watched him teach and heal, and they are just like on his heels. They can't wait to catch up to where he is. And so there's one event that is truly miraculous when Jesus performs this in front of the crowd. It's the only miracle outside of the resurrection that happens across all four Gospels. That's recorded in all four Gospels. And it happens where Jesus is teaching his disciples. He's up on a mountain teaching his disciples, and then everything changes. The whole scene changes. And we read in John chapter 6, Jesus looked up and saw the large crowd coming toward him. And he asked Philip, where will we buy food to feed these people? Jesus said this to test him, for he already knew what he was going to do. Philip replied, more than half a year's salary worth of food wouldn't be enough for each person to even have a little bit. And so there's this huge crowd of thousands of people that have caught up to Jesus and his disciples. And Jesus turns to Philip. And again, I love this moment because Jesus has a great sense of humor, right? He's not doing this because he's asking Philip to actually solve a problem. He's testing him. He's seeing what Philip might come up with, because he says, well, how are we going to feed all these people? Some people estimate it's up to 20,000 people that are there, right? How are we going to feed all of these people? And Philip, it's a test. Jesus already knows what he's going to do, and Philip does not pass the test, because Philip goes to practical reason, and he's like, well, he starts doing the math, and he goes, if we had even 6 to 8 months salary, we couldn't have enough food even for everyone to have a little bite. It's just not possible. And what Jesus was really wanting him to do is not do the math, but to look at the person who is asking the question. And then Andrew comes along and he says this, a youth here has 5 barley loaves and 2 fish, but what good is that for a crowd like this? And the 2 fish is like teeny tiny fish, and the 5 barley loaves, those would have been very cheap loaves that were eaten by those who were poorer. And so this isn't even like good food, and there's not very much of it. And Andrew's like, I don't know, maybe we could do something with this for like thousands and thousands of people. But Jesus isn't fazed at all. And he says this. Then Jesus said, have the people sit down. There's plenty of grass there. And they sat down, about 5,000 of them, and that's men, so that's why they think that it's probably more than even that. And then Jesus took the bread, and when he had given thanks, he distributed it to those who were sitting there. He did the same with the fish, each getting as much as they wanted. When they had plenty to eat, he said to his disciples, gather up the leftover pieces so that nothing will be wasted. And so they gathered them and filled 12 baskets with pieces of the 5 barley loaves that had been left over by those who had eaten. And so Jesus, he turns to his disciples and he says, have everyone sit down. But the wording there is not just have them sit down, but have them sit down and get ready for a meal. Have them prepare themselves to eat a meal. And so Jesus gives thanks to this very small offering, and he himself distributes this food. And as he distributes it, there's plenty. There's more than enough. It says everybody ate to their satisfaction. So it wasn't even that they got enough to not feel hungry, till they didn't need to eat anymore. Completely satisfied. And with that, there's plenty of leftovers. There's an abundance where there's a basket for each disciple to pick up with leftover pieces of food. And then when the crowd sees what Jesus has done, they are so amazed that they want to make him king. They want to crown him on the spot. And Jesus is like, no, not going to work. And he has to duck out of there just to avoid them forcing him to become king. And what Jesus has done in this moment is amazing. I mean, can you even imagine him taking something so small and just multiplying it for everyone to have enough? Well, tonight, I want to give us a little help in imagining what this could be like, because, think about it, a hungry crowd is kind of like a hungry congregation. And I know many of you have dinner to go to after this, and you might be looking forward to a certain meal or a certain treat, and maybe you're starting to feel a little hungry. You had a cookie or two, but you were saving room, so you're feeling a little peckish. And I want you to think about, like, maybe if I had this box here, right? This box. And I want to show you this box because, this box, it's empty, right? I've got this empty box here. But say I could suddenly in this box produce a chocolate bar, right? And, you could have that chocolate bar. Someone gets that. But, the box is empty, right? There's nothing in this box. But say I was able to produce another chocolate bar, and someone else could get that chocolate bar. Oh, yeah, right there. And now say I was able to take those little chocolate bars and make a giant chocolate bar. Now, say I was able to make this giant chocolate bar and make it so that there's enough for everyone. Because there is! Merry Christmas! Chocolate bars for all! So exciting! Yay! No, you came to church and you got gifts! Yay! To imagine, what if I did that every single week, right? What if I had I know, you'd be like, I'm coming to church. I don't know what magic candy that lady's pulling out of a box, but I'm going to be there, right? It's exciting and it's fun. And what Jesus did was exciting and fun. And, if we did that, if we had magic tricks and magic candy every single week and you didn't know what treat you were going to get, we would probably start to draw a crowd, right? People would be excited. But they might miss the point if it just became about magic candy, right? And so that's kind of what happens with Jesus in this crowd. So Jesus and his disciples, they take off, that night, and the crowd wakes up, and they're like, where'd they go? And so they load up in these boats, and they go and they find Jesus, and they catch up to him, and they're like, well, how'd you get here? How long have you been here? And Jesus, he offers them some challenging words. Jesus says, I assure you that you are looking for me not because you saw miraculous signs, but because you ate all the food you wanted. Don't work for the food that doesn't last, but for the food that endures for eternal life, which the human one will give you. God the Father has confirmed him as his agent to give life. And so Jesus says to them, you missed the point. You saw the sign and missed the significance. You came to find me because you had your fill, and he's not trying to shame them over their physical needs being met, but he's saying you missed the deeper thing. He says, don't work for food that doesn't last, that you're going to eat this now and then you're going to get hungry again. You're going to eat this chocolate bar and you're still going to have room for dinner. Don't worry, parents, there's room for dinner, I promise. He says, work for food that endures, food that's going to last, and the only one who can give that to you is the human one, which is referring to Jesus. Sometimes that's translated the Son of Man, but really that should say the Son of Humanity. That's the wording there. The one who is truly human. And so again, he's not shaming them about their desire to eat, or that has brought them, that they saw that, it brought them to him, but he's saying there's something bigger that I'm here to offer you. You have a bigger need that you don't even know about, a spiritual need, but the crowd really doesn't get it. So the crowd, they turn to him, they ask, what must we do in order to accomplish what God requires? And Jesus replied, this is what God requires, that you believe in him whom God sent. And the Greek there for the question that they asked Jesus is, how must we work the works of God? What do we need to do? Like, if we're going to get this food that lasts forever, what do we need to do? And I love it because there's such a great play on word. They ask, what are the works we need to do? And Jesus says, there's one work. There's only one work. And the work that you need to do is to believe in the one who has come to be among you, to believe in the one whom God has sent. And that word believe doesn't mean a one-time moment to show up and say, okay, I believe in who you are. It is a long-time relationship. It's a lifetime of believing and trusting and living in relationship with him. Jesus is pointing to the significance of the sign that they saw, and the significance is him. It's him. It's a person. It's what he's come to bring. He's the answer. It's not about what they're going to do for God. It's what God has come to do for them. And just like Jesus wasn't actually asking Philip to come up with enough food for thousands and thousands of people, he wanted him to turn to Jesus and say, well, what are you going to do about it, Jesus? I mean, you're the one who can do something about it. It's the same thing. Because what God desires most from us is trust. That's what God desires the most. That's what God wants from us, is to bring him the smallest thing that we have. And say, probably can't do very much with this, and it's not very fancy, and it's nothing special. And let God multiply whatever it is that we bring. Let God provide abundantly as God can, because Jesus did amazing things. John says at the end of his gospel that he did so many amazing things that if they were to write them all down, there are not enough books in the world to contain it. He did amazing things. And of course the crowd sought him out because he was worth seeking out. But Jesus wanted them to see what he really came to offer, the real gift that he brought. And Jesus still does amazing things. We still come to Jesus because we want him to do a divine work in our lives. We want to see him heal. We want to see him reconcile and remedy and provide. We want all of those things, and those are good things to ask of Jesus because he does want to provide them. But sometimes we can see the sign and miss the significance. We can see the work of God and miss the whole point, and that is the gift of Christmas. Every year, we come back to the whole point of the story, which is that God came to be with us, that God became one of us so that we could see the heart of God, so that we could understand God, so we could know God, see him face to face, but also so that he might save us, so that he might rescue us. Eugene Peterson says it like this: the birth of Jesus is a birth with a message. It takes the entire Bible to bring the complete message, but this birth is the core of it. In Jesus, God is here to give us life, real life. And that life is found in Jesus alone. And you don't have to do anything to earn it. It's available to anyone who wants it. Whatever you brought in tonight, maybe you haven't stepped foot in a church in a very long time. Maybe you've been keeping God at an arm's length and you've been like, I don't really know. You might come in and mess everything up. I don't know if I can trust you. And there's nothing that you have to do to earn it other than to trust that Jesus is who he says he is, that Jesus has come to give us life, life, and more life. And that's the real gift of Christmas. Much like the sentiment of our song, the gift of Christmas is not all the trimmings. The gift of Christmas is a person. Let's pray.